Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles, and welcome to my May wrap-up, starting with monthly stats. So looking at my iPad, as per usual, this month I read 7 books. I had 2 DNFs. I read 1,605 pages and listened to 21 hours of audio. For genre breakdown, I had 2 fantasy, 3 fiction, 1 nonfiction, and 1 romance. I had a very mixed combination of format this month. 2 were physical, 2 were ebooks, 2 were audiobooks, and then 1 book was read with an ebook and the audiobook. I had an even split of adult and young adult books, but this does not include the manga that I read this month. And then for ratings, we had 1 each of 3.5, 3.75, 4, and 4.25 stars, and then 3 5 stars. 5 of the books that I read were novels, 2 of them were manga, as I mentioned. And then for authors that I read for the first time this year, 2 of them were repeats and 3 were new to me. First book that I completed this month was The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This was a part of my Do I Like White Man Fantasy vlog. If you were interested in my thoughts on that book, I will have that linked in the cards and the description. I rated this 3.75 stars. It was okay. I had a better time with it than I was expecting to. However, I will not be continuing that series. The next 2 I'm gonna lump together because they are a part of the series. Spy Family Volumes 2 and 3. I really enjoyed both of these. I rated both of them 5 stars. I'm enjoying the series. I'm having a fun time with it. I knew that I would, and those were the last 2 physical copies of this that I had, but I am going to try to read the rest digitally. If you're unfamiliar with Spy Family, there is also an anime, but we are following a spy who needs to put together a fake family in order to complete his next mission. So he adopts a little girl who happens to be a telepath, and his fake wife is an assassin. Nobody knows anyone else's secret. It's really funny following along with them, and it's a really fun read. Next, I attempted to read Archer's Voice. So this does say a love story on the cover, and from my understanding, it is supposed to be a romance. However, we are hit with trauma very early on, and I usually don't mind if there are heavier topics in romance, but the way that it read didn't really feel like a romance. It felt like fiction that maybe has a romance subplot, and then the way that the trauma was sort of woven into it in the beginning, I did not enjoy. I did make it far enough to see our characters have their first interaction, and it was weird, and I didn't like it, and I just don't care. Then I read Tainted, Liberties by L.R. Jackson. I had an arc of this. The author reached out to me and asked if I would like to read it, and she warned me that it was going to be a tough read, and she was not wrong. From chapter 1, you're kind of like, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay. This is about 4 people, 2 married couples essentially, whose lives are tied together for various reasons. There are a lot of secrets, and those secrets start to come out slowly but surely, and everyone's lives sort of implode. I think maybe I would recommend this to people if you like mess. It is fairly messy, and I rated it 4.25 stars, but I also think that the ending of it, it was too neat, you know? I think that it was, I don't want to say unrealistic, but kind of unrealistic in the sense that everything was just wrapped up so neatly in a nice little bow, and I don't think that that's actually how it would have ended in real life. There is a long list of content warnings that I took note of while reading this book, and I will have those on the screen for you, so proceed with caution. But also, it wasn't a bad read. It is well written. I was interested, but again, it is messy and also just might be a little triggering for some people, so again, proceed with caution. Then I attempted to read Fever Dream. This was a gift from a friend, and I don't even know what this is about. I decided to get the audiobook for this because I was like, oh, well, if it's like trippy, maybe listening to it will be an experience, and an experience it was, but not in the way that I wanted. I genuinely don't even know how to describe what this is about. All I remember is that we're getting flashbacks of this woman talking about her son. And I don't know if this is supposed to be magical realism, but there are some maybe paranormal things happening. I don't really know. I was listening to it on my walk to work, which is about a 15-minute walk, and when I got to my office, it said that I was on chapter 9. Did I know that I even changed chapters? know. I really don't know what was happening here, and I don't know if I could recommend it because it not only was weird as hell, but it was also pretty boring. So honestly, I just don't know. Next, I finally read Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This is young adult and I rated it 4 stars. In this, we're following a young boy who is trying to prove to his family that he is a real Brujo. The inside cover says Yadriel has summoned a ghost and now he can't get rid of him, and that's kind of exactly what happens. He's actually trying to help the ghost pass on, but the ghost is like, nah, I have unfinished business and you gonna help me figure it out. And it's actually a really great story. I didn't necessarily love the ending because, again, it felt like everything was just too perfect in the end, but if you're the kind of person that wants a happily ever after, then you might actually enjoy this more than I did. Then I had an arc of Part of My Frenchie by Pharaoh Rashan. I love this author. However, I did not love this book so much. We are following Ashanti. She is the owner of a doggy daycare called Barkingham Palace. There's a very cute moment between Ashanti's dog and another dog in the daycare that goes viral, but the owner of that other dog and Ashanti do not get along. Their first interaction is absolutely terrible, but he does grow on you eventually. I rated this one 3.5 stars. I liked it, but it's definitely not my favorite by her. I would recommend this though if you are a fan of forced proximity with two people who kind of don't like each other, but they don't want to admit it, and also are a dog lover. I do believe that this will be the first in a series we do see another potential couple interact, and I'm hoping that they get a book next. That would be really great, but it is pretty good. But there were so many different side plots that it kind of felt a little disjointed, or like the pieces weren't fully connected, or it's like when you're trying to fit a puzzle piece into a spot where it doesn't go. I think that's an accurate description. And the last book that I read was Handbook for a Post-War America. This is obviously not the most up-to-date version, but it is still very useful and informative. One thing that I liked is that it does go state by state to talk about bans or trigger laws that would go into effect if Roe were overturned, and now that that has happened, all of this is still very relevant. This is a pretty short read, and I would actually say that about 1/3 of it is a resource guide, so you're only reading 2/3 of this. Very useful, very informative. I rated it 5 stars for that reason. If this is one that you are ever contemplating picking up, I would definitely say go for it. One thing that I'm currently reading and very close to finishing is Sword of Kaigen. I have been having a great time with this. Shockingly, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I know a lot of my friends love it, but I was not sure how I was going to feel, and I'm having a good time. At minimum, this is going to be 4 stars. What's interesting about this is that it's set in like what is supposed to be like a futuristic Japan. However, the way that these people live is not very futuristic, but they have very advanced technology, and it's kind of like confusing because I'm like, wait a minute, what time period are we in? But also, this is a war novel, so it does get very brutal and gory in ways that you can expect. Think Poppy War or Rage of Dragons. There is a lot of death. Like I said, it is very brutal. And at the beginning, we were getting 2 perspectives, one of which I didn't really care for, but the other one was really what kept me going. And where I am now, I think there's going to be a shift in the way that things work in this society, so I'm really excited to finish this one. I'm hoping to finish it this weekend. Those are all the books that I read in May. Let me know if you have read any of these or if they are on your TBR. Otherwise, that's all I have for you to say, and I'll see you in the next video.